Senate Republicans have voted down an effort to halt President Donald Trump's war against Iran, a demonstration then of early support for the conflict, even though there's no clear US exit strategy. The critics say the legislation known as a War Powers Resolution, it failed on a 47 to 53 vote tally, mostly along party lines. Later today, the House will also vote on the same resolution. Well, let's hear from the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer.
Why is Donald Trump hell-bent on making history repeat itself? Why is he plunging America headfirst into a war that Americans do not want and which he cannot even explain? Enough is enough. The American people deserve a say, and that is what our resolution is about. We must act to stop Trump's belligerence. The American people will be watching how senators vote. History will judge this chamber for how we act.
Chuck Schumer there. So, Kedevan, in the end, this motion failing.
Yes, failing. No surprise there. There was just one Republican who went with the Democrats and one Democrat who went with the Republicans. But no one really thought that this vote was actually going to pass because the Republicans so far are still very much in lockstep with Donald Trump. And the same is expected from the vote in the House later today. Probably, maybe a couple of Republicans are going to switch sides, but that's not going to be enough likely to pass that resolution. The issue here, and there's been quite a lot of debating and of people trying to work around the words, because yes, the Constitution of the United States does give the power to wage war to Congress. However, the president does have the authority to take military action to defend the United States. And so the Republicans are arguing, some of them even trying to work around the wording of saying whether this is actually a war or a military operation. This sounds a whole lot like what the Russians were doing in Ukraine. But what they're trying to put and separate is this idea of, is this a long-term war that needs congressional approval, or is this a military operation to protect imminent threat to the United States? What the Democrats are trying to do, even though they know that these votes are not going to pass, and even if they did pass, they would be vetoed by Donald Trump, what they're trying to do is politically put the Republicans on the spot, on the record, voting yes or no to a war. Why is that? Because this is an election year. We're going to have the midterms in November, and the Democrats know that the war in general, and this war in particular, is unpopular. The latest poll from CNN, 59% of Americans disapprove of the strikes against Iran. Yes, the Republicans are more in favor of it, but you can see that this is not exactly going to go down really well with the American public. The question really now is for the Democrats to get those Republicans on the record so that if this war becomes less and less popular, they can go back and say, you're the ones who let Donald Trump go ahead with this. And this might be a problem going forward for the Republicans, because right now, most Republicans support it, but there is a fringe of MAGA, and we're talking about that yesterday, that sees this as a forever war in the Middle East, exactly the thing that Donald Trump campaigned on not doing. So those people and that group might grow as the war goes on. The length is unclear. Donald Trump talked about 4 to 5 weeks. Pete Hegseth said it could be up to 8 weeks. No one exactly knows how long this is going to take. And of course, the most important for the American public and their support for a war is how many U.S. casualties there will be. So far, there are 6, but the Secretary of Defense, as well as the U.S. President, have insisted that there could be more people who die in this war, and that could really turn the tide on the popularity of this war.
Kedevan, thanks very much. Kedevan Gorgeous-Stani there here on France 24.